everything like that out of it, like, do you at face value believe that if someone puts a hand on you, you can commit, like, you can take their life? I mean, think about how many times, if you have siblings, you
So
fought as
Heather,
a
make
child.
it
Like, if
simple.
your brother or sister comes and, like, hits you over the head with something, can you then turn around and stab them and kill them?
So
I mean,
Heather, I
what
made it
kind of
simple. You can get
precedent
that answer.
no, just like what kind of precedent are we
Let him
setting as a
answer the
society
question.
when
I
you're
mean,
like,
damn, I can't get a word in
oh,
Yeah,
edgewise,
I'm not
right?
Heather,
finished, or you
Heather.
gotta wait for me to finish before you respond,
I
buddy.
mean, you did finish, and he was responding. Go ahead, Heather. Go ahead, re-ups.
Yeah, I said it in the space. It should have just been a fight between two teenage boys, right? It was unfortunate. I brought up conflict resolution in the last place when we were talking about this. I said we should respect that both parents and parties did not want to make it about race, and that outside parties were making it about race. And we should not do all this speculating, right? If you don't hear me, the same what I'm doing for the Austin boy, I'm making the same case for him. He had a knife at school. What's the worst that could happen? Was it self-defense? Let it play out. I didn't condemn that young man. I was just giving you similarities to a case where you showed they lowered the bail. They had a knife at school. A person was stabbed. Both of them admitted to it. In the affidavit, this young man admitted to it also. So these are the similarities in these cases. I'll go on mute.
I'm
That,
just
that,
Plenty of
throwing out
cases
there.
where
I'm just throwing
I
out
would,
there.
I would,
Possessing a knife does not equal premeditation, especially if
I
it
just said
spontaneously started raining and he ran under
that's
the
fair.
tent.
That's fair. But I just said
that's making an assumption that the tent that he
I
ran
was
to was the closest
saying,
tent.
all I was saying is that the prosecution can make the case. Like there's that it leaves the the avenue there. That's all I said. All of this is speculative. I'm not saying the guy is guilty of murder. There for all intents and purposes. Let's just say, okay, the two brothers could have had him pinned down. I don't know, right? I don't know. We won't know until the facts come out in the case. From what I've heard and what I've seen, right? I haven't heard any justification for use of deadly force from all that what's available online. Again, that I will add the caveat that we don't have all of the information, and so therefore I think that it's important that we don't get ahead of the courts in that regard. I want to go to Dana because she's been extremely patient and she was very kind to me the other night on her space. Go ahead, Dana.
Hi. So yeah, I want to swing back to the case in Allison because that came across my attention this week. I never heard of that case or what happened with the two teens, and this took place, I believe, back in 2022. So when Peter brought it up and talking about how his bail was lowered, and you diligent, and I don't know, it was others were saying, well, it's different circumstances. No, it was actually the same circumstance, because we have to remember when this incident happened and Kaysen was arrested, no evidence. It's the same situation. He wasn't indicted. It was no grand jury. He was arrested. He had a bond of $1 million. And of course, when you have your first bail hearing without any evidence being presented, your defense is going to argue to lower the bail, and they did to 175. It's the same situation. So when you say it's different circumstances, it's not. It just so happened the trial, which started this week and is day 2, this is 2 years later. So now we are hearing all of the evidence. You have students that are taking a stand to tell people what happened in that bathroom, and they also have video. But when something happens like Carmelo Anthony, even Kaysen Allison, using a knife, using it to stab somebody, because it was an altercation and the other person dies. They were both arrested, both had $1 million bail, both had a bail bond hearing, and the defense argued to lower the bail, and it was lowered. So there is no difference. It is the same exact thing. So why is it? And I don't want to bring race into it, but race is in the title, and all of media is talking about race. Why is it when it's a black person, you want to police his bail, you want to police the fundraiser that people donated with their money, and they're not donated by black EBT people like that dude Rob Smith for calling black people EBT people that donated. No, these are black people, majority black and probably some white, that want to see Carmelo Anthony have a fair trial, because we are all privy to due process, right? So if Luigi could sit up here and have a GoFundMe or fundraiser, and he cold-blooded assassinated a CEO, why are we questioning what these people are doing with the money? That's not our business. It's for the legal fund. And no lawyer in his right mind, knowing that they were raising money for his defense, is going to sit up here and say it's okay for you to buy a so-called Cadillac. So it's a lot of racial stereotypes, innuendos, and comments that are being spewed on media by legacy media and by these high-profile social media heads, podcasters. And that's a problem, to where people need to look at themselves in the mirror. But like, listen, am I contributing to this so-called race war? Because now you have this white supremacist rally going on Easter weekend. For what? Because,
well, I mean, hold on. I just want to address a couple of things. I don't know if you heard in the space, because you came in kind of late. What I said is that, focusing on the fundraising aspect is a little wishy-washy. One, because there's other examples, just like you cited one. I cited Daniel Penny. They raised millions of dollars for Daniel Penny, regardless of whether he was exonerated or not. There was a lot of similar racial undertones between that case, right? So that was my point. I'm actually with you. I think that the conversation gets derailed when you focus on the fundraising. I also, though, it's also not gone in people's minds that the BLM movement was used to raise millions of dollars for an organization that very clearly, allegedly, apparently misused the funds. And I think that's kind of what people are trying to say here. I'm not saying that's true, but that's kind of like
right.
the
organization.
One second, wasn't finished. So my comment wasn't directly at you, Diligent. I was speaking in general. So
no, I'm just responding to that part. I mean, what do you think about that?
So to that, it's like, even with the BLM, like, a lot of people are skeptical of these fundraisers, but it's after the fact, because when people are donating, you don't know what people are going to do with the money. But clearly, with the Carmelo Anthony, that was literally made up. They literally created a false story just to put out there, and it's a distraction. So here's my last point, and I'm going to land. I'm bringing up Case and Allison. None of us ever heard of that case. And then what do we have? We had a shooting today on a Florida's college campus. A shooting yesterday in Texas at a high school where 5 kids were shot. That person was black. Usually, and then other times shooters are white, and they're also Hispanic. It doesn't matter the race. What we are looking at is an epidemic of teenagers being violent, and no one is not having that conversation. And that's the problem. So all of us up in here, when we talk about this, monetizing it, making money off it, why don't we start having a real conversation and stop pocket watching a black family and what they're going to do with the legal defense?
That's fair. And I didn't know, again, I wasn't trying to litigate the other comparable case, because I don't have all the facts, and so I didn't want to say.
Can I add something?
And the timeline.
I think like, in all situations, whether it's Daniel Penny or Luigi or Carmelo, I think we need to start talking about, like, in terms of this crowdfunding, I absolutely believe all of them deserve, like, their day in court, a free and fair trial, adequate legal defense. I wholly support that. Where I think we need to start being careful as a society is allowing crowdsourced funds to go to anything other than adequate legal defense in cases of criminal matters. Because then we end up almost incentivizing, like, and rewarding potentially bad behavior, right? So, like, let's use hypotheticals here. Like, let's say he's found guilty. If someone is, whether it's him or Daniel Penny or whoever, if they're found guilty And as a result of their guilty, like their committing of a crime, them or their family net new houses, new cars, new whatever. That's an issue as a society. But I wholly support funds and crowdfunding for adequate legal defense of those people. But
I hear you on that, Heather.
upon
But
conviction, any additional funds should be returned to donors, in my opinion. Otherwise,
I
we're
hear you.
rewarding
there's
bad
fraud.
behavior.
The
There's
problem with
fraud.
that, though, is it becomes too subjective. And we'll use January 6th as a perfect example. Is you have a lot of people that pled guilty, not because they're guilty. It's just, hey, plead guilty, you get 90 days, or go against the government that has an open checkbook, and you're looking at 15 years. And if we try to isolate people to only using money, I'll use my case as a perfect example. The amount of alerts that they created on my background made it impossible for me to get any remote employment that was aligned with the skill set that I have. And so this is just one of those things that it becomes a moral thing for society. Society has to look at themselves. We're all going to judge these situations before they get to court, and we're going to use that personal judgment to decide, hey, I believe this, I don't believe this, or there's not enough here for me to make a rational decision, and then we'll decide where that money goes. But we cannot become a society where we tell people where they can and can't spend their money. When we start getting subjective, things get very dangerous. And I agree with you. It will prevent people from taking advantage of it. It will accomplish that. But at the same time, it's going to punish a lot of people who wouldn't. And the way our system's set up, it's to protect the people that are innocent, even if it means bad guys are
If
gonna
we
get away
see
with
a repeated misuse of funds on the backs of the justice system, right? Like in this case, or January 6th, or any other fundraising event, right? And it's clearly a grift, like we saw with the BLM organization, then it needs to be called out. Not so much that so people who deserve the funds don't get it again, but for the retards who send millions of dollars for these virtue signaling movements, they stop doing it, right? Because it perpetuates the scam. That's why it's important that we call it out, right? I'm not saying that we need to control who spends what money where.
We should.
But let me just say,
if
an organization collects $8 million dollars, and then they spend $6 million of that dollars on real estate and treats themselves to luxury trips and all this shit, then it needs to be highlighted so that the retards who sent them money the first time don't do it again.
So Diligent, you are making
Diligent, we already have.
But it needs to be highlighted by us.
So good. You can keep highlighting it, but you don't have to throw BLM in, right? Because I'm telling you, the disparities you were talking about.
The organization, bro, not the movement. I was very concise with my words.
So just talk about, because this is what I'm telling you, how it's coming off.
It's a good example, bro.
So how it's coming off is you're attacking it again, right? You're trying to throw in a dig, right? When you could just keep it on the topic, because I can agree with you on the topic. It was the topic, sir. Okay, I didn't bring it up. Dana brought it up. The fundraising aspect of it was the topic, and I said in my response to Dana, she asked why. Why is it so much like this? And I wouldn't argue so much that it was because of a black person.
Well,
I would say it was because of I would say that it was because of the precedent set by the BLM organization during the Summer of Love.
This is my pushback with you. Why you and anybody else who may echo your same sentiments when we're talking about the
I'm only playing devil's advocate
here. Why is the focus on black funding? Because listen, why can't the focus be on all fundings? Because there's other fundraisers that people have contributed to.
Yeah, I said that, Dana. If you didn't hear me, I did say that.
So you said what?
I said January 6th, any of them. Any of the events. That's what I said. If there's evidence, that's what I was trying to tell Alpha, was like, if there's evidence of a pattern of people misusing funds for these types of movements or these types of things, then the onus is on us as the so-called media, or with whatever we are, to call it out. That way, people stop spending money on it. That's all I was saying.
But Diligent,
my
we already
thing
have
is-
laws on the
I'm
books.
throwing
We
out
already
there,
have laws on the books
Diligent,
to
I'm just
protect
throwing
against
out
this.
there,
We
there
have
is
wire
a
fraud
precedent.
charges. We
I
have
can't-
wire fraud as well as money laundering, right? So if you make a material misstatement of fact to induce people to give to a fund, you could have the federal government press wire fraud charges against you because you're misrepresenting where the money is going.
Except for during those 4 years, we had an administration that was clearly unwilling to follow through with the law, right?
I agree with
That's
you, but I
because
can't
and this is how-
speak to what the
10% to
Justice
the big
Department
guy.
chooses to go after or not. I'm just telling you there are laws on the books that allow them to go after
I'm
that.
trying to
using
bring you
money
up, George.
laundering,
Hold on. I'm sorry, you guys.
money laundering statutes as well as wire fraud and bank
I did
fraud.
kind of.
Charges that carry exorbitant
Dana,
sentences,
Dana,
20
were you
years,
done?
30 years, and
Dana, were you done?
20 years respectively.
Diligent, I just want to throw out there are cases across the aisle.
I just
both
want to say
sides
the
of aisle.
misogyny in here is like crazy. I'm trying to go to Dana. All these men just keep talking over you, Dana. I
Hey,
apologize.
I thought we believed.
It's not normally like that in my spaces. Usually, it's still light out here. After dark, misogyny is okay. But when it's still daylight, I am a little bit more respectful. Go ahead, Dana. Were you finished? If not, then I'm going to go to Stock Mom.
No, I was pretty much finished because I gotta prepare for my space tonight. But I'm just saying, stop pocket watching what Black people are doing, and all this with and I'm generalizing this, but specifically with the Rob Smith, the Jason Whitlocks, even the Matt Wallace and Benny Johnson. I think people with high profiles really need to watch how they are working.
So let me ask you this, Dana, because let me ask you this, because you said that this was a white. This is what I think is funny, right? Is there? We have the FBA movement, which is a foundational Black American movement. It's a pro-Black movement. Okay, can we agree on that?
No, it's not a movement.
What would you call it?
It's not an organization.
What would you call it?
It's
I'm asking you to define
Black
it.
Americans. You're identifying.
It's just an ethnic identifier. That's all.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. But there's no activism associated with the title.
No.
Really?
No, Tariq
Wow.
Nasheed is not. He's Tariq Nasheed.
I didn't mention Tariq Nasheed.
No.
You made that association, not me.
Because he coined the term foundational Black American. So Tariq Nasheed.
I like Tariq.
He
I
is.
listen to his things.
He is a media. He is in media. He has done a lot of great work with documentary and highlighting when we're talking about Black history, Black culture.
Enough, Steven.
Not just here in America, but abroad.
So I mean, I feel like
it doesn't matter. It does not matter whether you like him or not.
So let me go back to this. So can we agree that there are pro-Black movements?
Yes.
Like what? Like what?
Okay, I'm glad. Okay.
But what about
Okay,
them?
so are pro-Black movements? Are they Black supremacist movements?
No.
Like what?
Not in terms of
Okay,
your white supremacist.
hold on, bro. I'm talking to Dana. The misogyny re-ups, bro.
We
I
don't
warned
have
you about this.
pro-Black movements. What pro-Black movement?
I just asked you
We
if there
don't
was
have
pro-Black
it.
movements,
Today
and you
in
said
20
yes.
Today in 2025, we don't have a pro-Black movement.
You don't have any pro-Black movements
we
in
do not.
2025.
No.
Wow.
No. Name
That is
Wow.
which one?
bullshit.
Yeah, come on.
That is bullshit.
Name one.
Black movement have you heard? Which
The
one?
Republic of
Name
New
it.
Africa.
So just because you don't listen. Just
about the
listen.
Black
Hold on.
Hebrew?
I'm just gonna stop the bullshit right now. Just because you don't want to call FBA an organization
It's
or a
not an
movement or a
organization.
group.
You know-
Okay, but it doesn't matter. It has the characteristics of one. There are a lot of individuals who identify as FBA, and they also activism on behalf of FBA causes,
No,
whether you
they
want
do
to admit it or not.
No,
Reparations,
no,
the demand for
no,
reparations
no,
is a
no,
pro-Black.
no,
The demand for
no,
reparations
No, it's
is
not.
it's
No, not. Do your
What-
research. And I'm telling
Okay.
you as a Black person, and I'm asking you, tell me the name of the pro-Black movement that you feel as though we have right now in 2025. Name it.
I just named it.
FBA.
FBA is not a
FBA
movement.
is
It's
a
not
movement.
Do you know what an organization is? It is not a 501c. It is not an organization. We don't have an agenda.
I described it. So you're drawing. Wait. Listen. I said movement. You said
It's
organization.
not a movement. A movement.
Diligent.
Okay,
It's more of an
listen.
ethnic.
There's two things that can be true at the same time. One, okay, it is a movement. It has all of the characteristics of a movement. Whether it wants to define itself as a movement, That's fine. But it does have characteristics of a movement. You have a group of individuals.
White, you say so? It has
No, because I'm trying to
say?
explain why, but you're not letting me. You asked me to tell you why I thought it was. You have a group of individuals who identify themselves as part of a group, right?
It's not
A
FBA.
lineage. It's a lineage.
It's not
sir.
a group. It's not.
It is.
So then wait.
I mean, you're arguing. So you're arguing,
Wait, hold on.
Dana. You're not letting me. Dana, hold on. Okay, I let you go uninterrupted. Please let me finish.
No,
okay?
I think you keep interrupting me, and
I didn't interrupt you.
I'm trying to tell you.
I didn't interrupt you. You were done speaking. I was speaking.
No, I was.
Well,
not
hold on, Dana. You asked me a question.
I didn't ask you a question.
You did
you on what FBA is, and it's not a movement, and it's not an organization. And don't sit up here and tell me because it has characteristics. That's your personal opinion. That isn't an assumption. So just because you say it has this characterization, that's what it is. That's not what it is. And that's that white and I say so BS. It is not.
Diligent.
I mean, the blue collar intellectual was agreeing with me. He's not white, so you are now making it a racial thing. This has nothing to do. This has nothing to do with race, right? It has to do with the fact that you have a.
Race. We're talking about foundational black.
You just said that was that white what? You made it.
Yeah, you said that white what?
Yeah, you said it was that white what?
Diligence.
But
if me,
you said it. You said it, not me.
You keep doing the mute button.
It's because you weren't letting me. This is how I moderate the space. You know this. You owe space.
No, I don't. So,
you're talking over the host.
So wait. Do you want to go first, and then I'll go? I'll wait till you finish.
Okay, thank you.
Diligent.
Thank you. I'll just say this, okay? And I can just ask you questions that I can just highlight through asking you questions and having you answer them, whether or not the FBAs are a movement. Okay, it has certain characteristics of a movement. I was trying to highlight them to you, but you weren't letting me asking you. Is there a group of Black Americans that identify as FBAs? Yes or no?
A group? No.
It's not a group. So there's not more than one individual in the United States who identify as FBAs.
That doesn't make it a group.
What is...
So
this is the semantics.
You want me to
You're getting into semantics.
Do you want me to explain it?
Yeah, please.
All right, because you just asked me yes or no questions. So let me explain it. If you're saying if somebody identifies with something, that makes it a group. So then you will have to sit up here and say that Koreans, Japanese, white people, and others, they identify with a group, which means they have their own movement. So you can't say for one and not the other. So
well, you didn't because you weren't because
and there you go.
The definition of a group.
Because I said earlier, and I didn't mute because of you, Dana. Hold on, Coyote. We're having a back and forth here, right? So it wasn't just the part of like the group is just one part of it. That's what I was trying to get at, right? So I'm trying to identify because I asked you if there was a group of Black Americans that identify as FBAs, and you wanted to argue about the definition of group. That's why we're having that discussion. If we can agree that there are more than one individuals in the United States who identify as FBA, we can move the conversation forward from there. And I'll highlight the characteristics I see with that group of individuals that are very similar or not symptomatic of a movement.
Is Negro a group? Is African American a group? Is color a group?
Can I share?
Black American is a
there
lineage.
Is a group.
It is
There's
a
an actual
lineage.
Wait,
hold on. Okay.
No, there is.
So hold on, Heather. Let me have this back and forth with her, please. Dana. I didn't. That's a mute glitch. All right. Can we agree? Right. A lineage. Does a lineage advocate on its own behalf? Is that typical of just an objective lineage? They advocate on their own behalf. There's probably a mute glitch. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So are you trying to change the definition of lineage?
I'm asking you to define. So here. Can I just simply
I'm gonna answer your question? So your question you're asking me: does a lineage? Do they Do they what advocate on?
Yeah, so you're trying to say that
because I want you to pose that same question to whiteness, to a white person, to a Caucasian. Pose the same question.
I
And I
am.
want you to pose
I am.
the
I am.
question.
I am. That
Answer
would.
the question to white.
Did I say black or did I say lineage? Lineage could be any lineage.
And what was the question?
So does a lineage advocate on its own behalf?
All right then. So no.
Okay, so then, so going off that premise, okay, if a lineage does not advocate on its own behalf, you are saying to me that FBAs do not advocate on their own behalf, correct?
No.
Thank you very much.
And I'm not done. Because you haven't answered my question. Now pose the same question to white people. Do your lineage advocate for white people as a group?
Not that I've seen.
Not up until presently, no.
Yeah, not that I've seen.
What group is that?
What do you mean? Are you speaking to?
What
Are you
group is
speaking
that?
to foundational white Americans?
This question you asked me, you said up until
because
tell me the name of that organization.
Because you're generalizing. You're generalizing, right?
That organization, because this is not going to be one-sided.
So, first of all, I'm not saying it's an organization. I said it's a movement, right? And you just heard Blue Collar say that there hasn't. You're not letting me answer your question. You just asked me a question. Are you gonna let me answer it or not? All right. So right up until now, up until recently, I have never seen I've never seen a pro-white advocacy group that I can think of. No.
The KKK?
They were anti-black. That's not the same as pro-white. And that's the distinction that I'm trying to. And that's the distinction. Hold on. There's a distinction here that I'm trying to make. Here's what I'm saying. Right? Is that there can be pro-ethnic group advocacy groups. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily supremacist in nature. Right? That's the point that I'm trying to make with Jake Lang's his protest this weekend. It's not necessarily a white supremacist. He's actually advocating on behalf of white people who he sees in this particular situation as oppressed. The same way that BLM did, or any other advocacy group for a traditionally marginalized community. That's what he's saying there. And so that's why it was really kind of confusing me when somebody is doing the same thing I've seen done behalf on African Americans or black people a number of times throughout the decades. Does not mean that it's black supremacist, because people are advocating on their behalf for them to be treated equally in a situation. That's what I'm saying. And that's exactly what he said when he was on stage. He says there is an anti-white sentiment that we are pushing back against here, that just because, in the past there was a discrepancy, a disparity in how people were treated, it doesn't mean it's okay now. And that's exactly the premise of the protest as he presented it during the space today. I don't feel like that's white supremacist. I feel like white supremacist is a way to discredit what it actually is. That's what I feel like. What do you think about that, Dana?
Diligent, I completely agree with you in a very simple facet. During the BLM movement, if another black person asked me, do Black Lives Matter? I would say 100%. Why do Black Lives matter? Because all lives matter. Do white lives matter? 100%. Why do white lives matter? Because all lives matter. Does that mean that I ignore the fact that you're in pain today because I see that another person may be in pain tomorrow? No, it doesn't. It means that if the fire trucks come to our street,
Black Lives Matter was about.
Shut up, Re-Up, for a minute.
Let's finish Re-Up.
Let
me. Yeah, he had the floor, Re-Up. Why are you trying to censor him just because you don't agree with what he's saying?
What I'm saying is, when the fire truck comes to the top of your street, whichever house is on fire is the house that needs to get put out. Now, if it happens to be a white house or a black house, I don't care. The fire needs to get put out. What I'm saying is, I've done extensive amounts of research on all of this, and regardless of the color of the boot on your neck, you are unable to breathe, and I don't care how you describe the boot on your neck. My goal is to remove the boot on your neck so you can breathe. Now, if that means I have to humor the way you describe the color of the boot on your neck for a moment while I explain to you the solution on how we make it so you can breathe, I'm okay with that. The issue is, do you use that description? Are you more interested in the solution? Are you more interested in blaming the people you see as to blame for the reason that you have a boot on your neck? Because if that's the issue, then we're going to fight. And like I told you, I'm biracial. If you want a race war, I will fuck all of you up.
Oh, who was he talking
Hold on.
to?
I want to let Dana. I'm gonna let Dana respond. Because she was talked to a lot there. Dana, go ahead, uninterrupted. Heather, you can go right after her. Go ahead, Dana. You got a minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I don't see when
It was the blue collar intellectual Julian.
I don't see blue collar, but first of all,
he's the caramel complected individual with the beard.
Well, number one, he wasn't talking to me.
I prefer butterscotch.
Yeah, well, number one, he wasn't talking to me. Number two, whoever he claimed he gonna F up this, F up that, I think you need to save the energy for your own bullshit you have in your life, because it's always with these mixed people, they get confused with semantics here. So all this with
That's
all
not
this,
racist.
Go look in the mirror and fix your fucking lace front, bitch.
He don't need.
Whoa, hold on. We don't need to resort to calling anybody bitches or anything like that. We're gonna keep it respectful. Damn,
this calling me a maturity. I must have really struck a nerve.
All right, go ahead.
I love striking nerves. And see, I know how to behave in somebody else's house. See, I'm not gonna cuss you out, but I'm gonna let you do all the cursing to show your ignorance, number one. But number two, again, whatever you were saying, if somebody's house on fire, you go put it out. That's all well and good. That's called humanity. So everybody should have some type of humanity within them. When we're talking about the history of America, when we're talking about white supremacy, and yes, your mixed ass would have been on the other side. You wouldn't have been with the white supremacists. Because they would have burnt your motherfucking house down, and with no qualms about it, with all y'all up in there. So again, all this, you're effing somebody up, you ain't effing nobody up over here. That's a whole fact. And
you a whole clown. In the funny part.
Hold on. So let me, because this is Dana. Can I just ask you something? I want to know what you thought about what I said about, a group or people going to protest of what they perceive to be marginalization or oppression in this circumstance. Does that necessarily mean that they are white supremacists just because the people that they're advocating for are white?
Well, you have to say, okay, so who's marginalized? The white people saying that.
In this, yeah, that's the perception in this circumstance.
But no. But isn't that the purpose of that rally? They're saying white people unite, protect white people. So white people are
they perceive that white people are being marginalized in this circumstance. Yes.
Right. So how? One incident, right, that has nothing to do with race, right, because that hasn't come out that it was something racial, but an incident that had nothing to do with race, and one person is white, one person is black. Why is that particular group of people that's doing this rally, why do they think they're being marginalized? White people are not marginalized and never have been.
I think that's a misconception. There is plenty of evidence to show over the last 10 years where gradually white people have become more marginalized.
Give me an example.
I can give you.
You just marginalized him because he's mixed.
Yeah.
If you weren't white, you wouldn't have.
Hold on. I can just. I'll give.
No, first of all, if he's mixed with black.
So DEI practices based on their merit alone marginalize white people in the hiring process.
I'm talking about white people. Give me an example.
I just did. DEI practices on just with that policy alone.
DEI benefited white women.
No, it did not. No, it did not.
Statistically
false.
No, these are hardcore facts, diligent. DEI benefited white women. and LGBTQAI+. Affirmative action benefited white women the most. It benefited black people the least. That is a fact. Go do your research. So again, sir, tell me, matter of fact, let's not go down the history of America. Tell me in 2025, white people being marginalized. I'm not talking about poor people. I'm talking about white people because of
So there's Harvard, Columbia. There's a number of universities that have had to settle lawsuits or have lost lawsuits based on marginalization of white people in their classes, the prioritization of students, and also how they were treated when they were being graded.
Give an example.
Come on, you're asking me off the cuff to cite an appropriate example.
No, you got to come with the facts, baby.
Diligent. She's
because when you have these
partially
lawsuits,
right and she's partially wrong. The reality is the DEI movement used black people as the face of the movement.
Listen. Hold on. You asked me to give you an example.
My Indians, not black people, and for so long, white people, you have.
So let me just say this, okay? Whether you want to agree to it or not, as a white man, I can tell you that I have perceived, I have seen it, I have felt it. There has been an anti-white sentiment broadcast over the last 10 years with the rise of wokeness, whether you want to admit it or not.
Echo what blue collar echoed.
And I'm not trying to belittle. I wasn't done yet. Thank you. But hold on, Dana, hold on. I'm not trying to belittle any other people's marginalization by saying that, and I'm not saying again, because I do not place myself in this victimhood totem pole of marginalization. You don't see me advocating for protesters to go down and defend the white man, right? All I'm saying, just like any other perception of a marginalization, you're gonna have pushback regardless of the color of the individual who is giving the pushback. And just because the individual happens to be white this time doesn't mean that he's supremacist. It is the natural pushback that any marginalized group has given over the years.
What are you talking about? You're not making no sense. You were trying to
get me to say Dana, your statement is mostly right.
Make a point, and you don't got to do all this, dude. You sound crazy. Let me ask you a point.
Dana, your point. Dana, your point was mostly right. Dana, your point was mostly right, but you're a little off.
Answer it honestly. Is America a racist country? In any sense of the word. I'm not talking about in 2025.
You sound racist.
No.
Historically, has America been racist?
Historically, have humans been racist?
Historically, yes.
Hold on. This is I'm glad we're having this conversation. Historically, have humans been racist?
No, I want you to answer my question.
Were humans racist before? Were humans racist? So I did answer your question. I said America was not. I did answer your question. Just because I did answer your question.
No, you didn't. Somebody else.
Yes, I did.
I want you to answer it.
I said no. What do you mean?
America historically has never been racist.
No, not in its entirety.
You know what? Have a good night, Diligent. Please come to my space tonight. Because
so you can do you can do your agenda. No, you can fulfill your agenda. That's it, though. You won't listen.
There has been a listen.
And I don't know who that other dude is, but dude, come to my space tonight too, so you can
listen.
Dana, I was willing to have a decent conversation with you.
So listen, people in the United States historically have been racist before. Okay, but to say you want me to generalize and say that everybody in the United States was racist at one time, then I can't. Neither you or I can make that statement definitively.
Yes,
you don't know that.
Yes, I can.
You don't know that.
And I say
you don't know that. There has always been people. There has always been people. There has always listen. You asked me to answer the question. When you don't like the answer that I'm giving you, you start talking over me and censoring the host. That's exactly what you're doing. It's exactly what you're doing. I am answering you specifically, okay? And just because I'm making sense, you're talking over me. So stop.
You're not making sense.
Yes,
I am making sense. Yes, I am. Okay, I can't say that everybody in the United States was. If that was the case, then there would have never been a civil war, right? There would have never been an element within the United States that wanted to free slaves. Out of all of the medieval barbaric countries that practiced slavery, we were the first ones to make it official, right? So to say that we are to say that we are of
Make
like
what official?
freeing slave, not having slavery, abolishing slavery.
We were the third.
We weren't the first ones.
Who were the first ones?
England.
We were the third. It was England
Okay.
and France.
And then Haiti.
Well, I mean, okay,
don't
hold
forget
on.
Haiti. Don't forget Haiti. So we're not even in the top four.
Listen. I'm not going to get into the semantics.
I don't mean to. One second.
It would not. My point is, right? My
point
point is that there's always, listen, to say that everybody in America or America is intrinsically racist is false.
I never said
you have
that.
no, just the same way that I don't have any way to prove that it wasn't. You don't have any way to prove that it was. You can draw on events that occurred on both sides of that argument to say that there were people who were against slavery and people who were for slavery, right? That doesn't mean that everybody from its inception believed in racism.
Diligent. And
Can
with all
someone
due
else
respect,
talk,
with all
dude?
due
She's been on
respect
her
here,
soapbox for like an
I'm gonna
hour.
drop down. With all due respect here, you really need to educate yourself on all of American history.
That's
because
that
you're
shit.
not
Everybody does
well
to educate yourself. That's a
American history. And I said
She's projecting her
systemic.
racism.
I said systemic. I'm not talking about individuals.
Yeah. I don't believe.
You
Listen.
are
I don't believe. This is like we're having an ideological argument here, right? That neither one of us can just prove off the butt. This is a large philosophical debate that you want to have. I'll state my position clearly, right? Which is I don't believe in systemic racism. I believe that racism is an ideology that is passed down from humans over time. There are many examples of racism being practiced well before the United States was even a notion. Look at China's history. Look at Russia's history, okay? This is Africa. Even within Africa, its own country, there is a long history of racism, okay? Practiced by many. Actually, some of the largest atrocities committed in the name of racism occurred in China. Look it up. I'm not making this up. It's not something that is specific to the United States the way that it gets portrayed. And so I disagree that the United States is fundamentally racist. However, that being said, I believe that there are entities that have developed within our government that thrive on the idea of systemic racism, and they have perpetuated conditions that keep certain demographics where they're at.
So you just gave
Can
the
I
definition
talk
of
now?
white supremacy.
Hey, listen, listen. If there has been a group of politicians that have been winning a certain vote for a long time, and that vote resulted in the same conditions for decades, whose fault is it? Is it the politicians or the people who are voting for them?
No,
right. So make sure that responsibility
No,
gets handed
right
out to
now,
where it
because
is,
it's the same.
right?
I
So
agree with you on
if
that. Wait, let me agree with you because this is the saying. If you talking about that your representation ain't shit, well, you got to look at the people because the people who vote for the ain't shit reputation must be ain't shit people. That's a saying. That's not just for black people because white people have vote people in to keep them in office, and those people.
Correct. Yes. But that's again. But that's a reflection. That's a reflection of a voting class choosing to go with the same results, right? Even though they were based on a racial premise, right? Like you got to remember, right? I mean, this is what I'm saying. This is a deep-seated philosophical. Listen, the Democrat Party was the party that was against abolishing slavery, right? They reinvented themselves during the civil rights movement, and then all of a sudden, the entirety of the United States forgot history for some reason, and then they depicted Republicans as racist, and because of that, a lot of black folks voted for Democrats year after year after year for the same failed policy based on a race ideology.
That is a
Okay,
flawed
Villager,
ideology.
Villager.
You
I
have
need
to make
correct
rational
you.
decisions.
I need to correct you because black people started.
Oh my God!
Black
Can
people
somebody
started
else
voting
please have a turn to
Democrat
talk?
under
This
No,
woman
FDR.
is like,
it is totally fine. I'm actually
But
enjoying this
black
discussion.
people
hey,
started
can I
voting
comment two
Democrat
things?
under
Two things, and then
FDR.
she can
They
go on
didn't
All
her
vote
right.
rant.
Democrat
To be fair, we have a lot of listeners and don't have speakers. Dana, you were gonna wrap it up. We can have this discussion.
I want her to respond to two things.
We can have this discussion on another night because we are getting derailed.
Okay,
But,
well, I was just gonna name drop two organizations
She ready to
that
talk.
she says
So I'm
doesn't exist.
I can't hear. Hold on, Heather. Let her finish, then you can
honey,
go.
'cause she ready. I'm gonna let her go ahead and talk. I'm doing my space tonight at 10. Y'all are invited to come. We are not talking about race history in America. That will be for another space.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing here, Dana.
What? Talking about race in America? The history?
Yeah, we're getting off topic. That's why I was my point.
Oh, yeah, we are way off topic. That's what I'm saying. That conversation is for another day, because when you want to throw in black people voting Democrat under Lyndon B. Johnson, that's not true, because it started under FDR. Everybody needs to go read a book and do their research on American history.
I was talking about the perpetuation
I don't
of
care.
voting.
Perpetuate nothing. Perpetuate the nuts. I don't care. I'll see you tonight if you have time to come over, Diligent.
Black crime is
likely will be
systemic
on
in the
as
United
well,
States.
so.
Just for those that don't.
I'm just my overall point, Dana, was this was
you still gonna be one.
yeah my point was this is that just because whether you agree with it or not, if they perceive somebody to being marginalized, they have every right to advocate on that person's behalf without being labeled as a Nazi or white supremacist. The same way that I wouldn't call somebody who is trying to advocate on black people's behalf black supremacists, trying to say that they were trying to rule over anybody else. Somebody could easily make the same argument on the same grounds, and that's all I was trying to say. Stefan, you've been waiting, very patient, sir, and I brought you up a few times. You kept dropping down. It wasn't intentional. Go ahead, Stefan.
Stephen, and thank you very much, and thank you to the host. Going back to the topic, listen, I've heard a lot. The space was quite enlightening, just understanding where everybody's coming from. Here's my takeaway. My takeaway is that everybody who's saying, oh no, this isn't about race, seems to forget that they more than likely took the exact opposite position on another well-known case, which is the case of the murder of Trayvon Martin. And the reason why it's the exact same circumstance is this: because George Zimmerman was legally in possession of his weapon, and George Zimmerman merely testified, because there was no video, there was no witnesses, that he feared for his life. And George Zimmerman walked. Now, Carmelo Anthony has asserted a self-defense defense in a state that has a stand your ground law. And I'm a person who advocated very strongly against stand your ground laws in general. So I find it ironic, this is why the space has been eye-opening to me, that the very members of the very party that insisted that we all needed the right to use deadly force if we feared for our lives are now upset. Although I knew this was coming, one of the reasons why I advocated against it. When a black youth asserts the self-same defense that's been available to all of y'all and to George Zimmerman. And another thing, we're talking about Texas here. Now, I happen to be an attorney, but I happen to be an attorney in Florida. Florida and Texas are cousins when it comes to our laws. So I heard a lot of babble today about what the law in Texas is and what they can and can't assert. Here's what's going to happen. The young man's going to say, that boy hit me first, that boy pushed me first, that boy attacked me. I feared for my life. He's bigger than me. His twin was there. Whatever the hell he's going to say. And he's going to walk. And shout out to my mother, Soror, who's his judge. She's already let you know, hey, prosecution, I'm not really impressed with this. And the third thing, The reason the prosecution did this is because a whole lot of people decided to make this a white-black issue. So it became political. And it wasn't black people that made it political, because my black American ass didn't know about the case until some white person decided to say, look at this case of this straight A student who was murdered under this tent.
I think
This black boy.
Hold
Question for the question for the
hold
attorney.
on. Stephen, were you done? Or Stephen, I'm sorry. Yeah, Stephen, were you done?
One last thing. And it goes, one last thing. It goes to Stephanie's point. Stephanie made the point, and I saw his mugshot, and he didn't look like he was remorseful at all. Now, we're still talking about a child who is being photographed by the police in connection with serious life-changing charges. And folks can fix their lips to actually say, I didn't like his look. This is what black America deals with every day. So, whether America's racist or not, I can tell you, and I listen quite diligently, I've heard a lot of racism here today. But thank you very much for the mic. I appreciate it. I'm here for
Before you
questions.
go, quick question for you. Was he legally in possession of the knife that he had on him?
Yeah, see, let's dispel that.
Was he?
So,
Okay,
a lot of people have talked about. Wait, let me wait. You asked me a question. You asked me a question. Allow me to answer. But
You did. You
but-
said
Yeah,
but
yes.
you
answer
did. You
it.
So
did.
here's my
Yeah,
follow-up
you did
question.
answer. So let's hear what he has to say, and then I'll let you respond.
Okay, go ahead, Steven.
Stephen.
But go ahead.
It's
Go ahead,
a
what's your
double
follow-up
mute, bro.
question?
It's a double mute. It's Elon. Come on, you're killing me with
Okay.
the double mute. Come on.
Yeah. So my question: are you familiar with Texas Penal Code 46.03?
As familiar as I am with its council doctrine, but go ahead.
That's
ask
a
your
no.
question.
That's a no.
Okay. So the answer is no. So that penal code specifically says that you cannot carry a knife on school property or
Right.
grounds or a building or
And had-
grounds. Hold on, I'm going. Or grounds
No,
or a
no,
building.
because
Hold on,
had
I'm
you
reading-
had
I'm
you not
reading
cut
the
me
law.
off with your
I'm
dumb
reading the
question,
law.
I would have cut off your dumb
It's not.
question.
It's not.
I put-
Hold on, Stephen. Nobody interrupted you. Okay, I clearly stopped the conversation. And shout out to MAGA Voice here, the ultimate moderator. The thumbs up or the thumbs down will be the ultimate decider. MAGA Voice, she decided who lives and who dies in my spaces. Make sure you're following her, the best account on X. Metaphorically
to be-
speaking, you guys, not literally. I just want to say, I did,
Diligent, to be fair, I was cut off.
Bro, he asked you a yes or no question. You said no. Let him follow up, and then you can respond. You're an attorney. You know how this works. Go ahead. Alpha, finish what you were saying. You can respond, Stephen.
Yeah, 100%. So for those that weren't here earlier, Texas Penal Code 46.03, it is illegal to intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly possess a location restricted knife on, and these are the three sections: the physical premises of a school or educational institution, 1. 2, any grounds or building where a school-sponsored activity is being conducted. 3, a passenger transportation vehicle of a school or educational institution. It's imprisonment by 2 to 10 years. It's considered a third-degree felony. This is in the state of Texas. You're all free to look it up. It's Texas Penal Code 46.03. You can read the different subsections where it talks about firearms and different things like that. But that part I'm telling you guys is specifically about a knife. So this kid was not in legal possession of this knife that he used to commit a homicide.
Alpha, you don't know that because the knife is five.
Hold
wait,
on, bro. Peter, it's Stephen's turn to respond.
Thank you. Wait, except that the grounds he was on was not school grounds. The grounds he was on was not
Yeah,
school
so
grounds.
the law, the statute states, Stephen, maybe you want to familiarize yourself with it since it is.
No, you're going to say it was a school event. Show me where it was a school event. I know it was a meet.
So
I don't know.
if
It was
you-
a school
Yeah.
event.
So
If you
it's
would've
specifically
listened-
mentioned.
If you would have listened, I'll read it.
Yeah,
again.
read
This
that
is
form
section
again.
2.
No. He doesn't
Any-
have to. He
any
has to prove it
grounds-
was a school event.
Any
He has to prove it was a school
Remember, you're talking
event.
I believe a track meet with school teams.
Hold on. We re-ups. I don't know. Who's,
No,
Somebody's
sir, you're
causing
assuming.
a
You are
feedback with their-
assuming. You are assuming it's a school event.
If we're
You've
assuming
made
it's a school
an
event,
assumption.
if we're assuming
I can't hear. There's a feedback happening when you both have your microphones open and talking at the same time. So do me a favor, moderate yourselves. Try not to speak over each other, Stephen. So if you ask him a question, give him time to answer it,
Go ahead, Alpha. How can you prove it's a school event?
You have multiple schools that are there. You have kids in their uniforms that are there. You have tents that are identified by the schools that are there. And you have the police report that says that they were investigating at a school event. So I don't think those are assumptions. I think those are facts.
Alpha, you're making an unwarranted assumption about the.
Hold on. Let's
Steven charged with violation. Wait, that's not fair. Was he charged with the violation of that penal code?
Has all of the charges emerged yet? Is he in trial?
Yeah, but Diligent, he's making an unwarranted assumption about
all the charges. All the charges are in the charging
size of the knife.
Listen. He's looking.
Has he been? Wait, you know. Everyone else can ask a yes or no question, but when I ask, everybody wants to talk. Was he charged with violation of that penal code? Yes or no?
No, he was not.
Okay, good. Anyway. I'm moving on. I've said what I've said. Anybody else got any questions?
There's a better argument. The size of the knife matters. That's why it's location specific. 5.5 and less.
Wait. Sir, honestly, he wasn't charged with violation of that penal code. That penal code doesn't matter.
What they're going to say, Stephen, is that he was violating the law by carrying a location-specific knife at the location, and that was the underlying felony.
Hey, we can't hear all of you at once. Alpha, respond.
I have a question.
Listen, him and Alpha were having them back and forth. Okay, Stephen, you said your part. Alpha, respond, Alpha.
Yeah, I answered your question, Stephen. My question to you now, Stephen, has the judge said he's going to release the guy and he's going to go free on the self-defense?
Did they make a motion to dismiss based on self-defense yet? No, they have not.
Did he violate it, though?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Did he violate the penal code?
But since the judge is my mom's... Wait. And since the judge is my mom's soror, I think I know how it's going to work out. But, that's part of y'all fear, not part of mine.
We know how it's going to work out. He's going to get found guilty, and a bunch of black activists are going to burn down buildings.
Yes. That Delta woman who's sitting and presiding over.
Let me ask you this. If he is,
she doesn't.
Hold on.
A jury does.
If he is found guilty of second-degree murder and goes to prison for, a decade or so or more, do you think that are you going to accept that as justice?
Okay, listen. Is Donald Trump guilty?
No, come on. Yes or no?
Bro! Wow. Okay.
I didn't mean to trigger you. Okay. But I asked an obvious question. And all of a sudden, y'all trying to have a reasonable conversation.
Yeah, because you just...
That was a reasonable question. You asked me a dumbass question. So
No.
Hey.
Guys, if you just look at the Texas knife law, it states that the location-specific knife has to be over 5.5 inches. 5.5 inches is legal. Actually,
is it in the report the length of the blade anywhere?
No, it's not. But you're making an unwarranted assumption by saying he had an illegal knife.
So arguing about whether the blade was legal or not is a moot point because you don't have the details necessary to make that assumption
back and forth
based on the length of the blade. But it is not.
He wasn't charged with violation.
But it is not, sir. Now it's my turn. This is the host speaking. You don't talk over the host. You should know that. But it is not unclear whether or not he was supposed to have the blade there. It's clearly written in the school's own regulations that there is.
He wasn't on school grounds.
The reason why that you don't. That you're talking over me is because you're trying to censor what I'm saying. So I'm going to finish my point. Just like I didn't interrupt you, you're not going to interrupt me, right?
But you did interrupt me, sir.
I didn't. I was moderating the space. That was a conversation between you and Alpha, right? This is a conversation between me and you. So, forgot my place. Okay, here we go. So anyways, he wasn't allowed to have the knife there to begin with. It's clearly written in the school's own code. He was at a school event. We've already established that, right? There is no knives under any circumstances allowed on school property or at a school event. Therefore, he is already in violation of the rules of the code of conduct of the school. On top of that, you still have to wait for the case is still being investigated while he's out on bond. Right? There more charges might emerge. You don't know. They often either add or drop charges before the court goes to trial. If you're an attorney, you know this. I don't need to explain it to you. Sometimes they drop charges they consider to be weak. Sometimes they add charges as more information becomes available during the course of an investigation, right? This is common sense. I don't need to try to convince anybody of this. So to try to make the argument that because he hasn't been charged with possession of a knife on school grounds, when the crime that was committed that's being charged is murder. And by the way, the possession of the knife on school grounds only in the worst of circumstances is considered a felony. The bare minimum for it was a Class A misdemeanor, a Class 1 misdemeanor by Texas statute. No, under certain circumstances it was considered a felony. So this is what I'm saying, right? Is that you don't know because we're all just speculating here, and to try to make the argument because this hasn't happened yet or that has happened yet is purely conjecture and should be taken as such. Shouldn't be taken seriously. That's all my point was arguing for objectivity. Okay, let's go. You can respond. Hold on. You can respond. I will totally let you respond, Stephen. Go ahead. Give you a minute, and then I'll go to the hands.
I won't even need a minute. So, because we have to be objective, here's what we know. We know what he was charged. We know what he wasn't. We also know what you decided is length specific. We don't know why he wasn't charged with it. That is correct. But we also know he was not charged with it. No speculation. What you're citing is not charged with. So, in something is speculation.
Is he rugging?
Therein lies the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't hear you.
Did you hear?
No. Nope, that's a matrix.
The Lord bless you. The Lord is.
God is doing for me what I can't do for myself, brother.
Wait. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I heard. I'll save you some time. I heard the first part. You're saying that because if I'm being objective, we know that he hasn't been charged yet, so you can go from there.
Correct. We also know there's an exception to the law deals with length. So there are abilities and reasons why. If you're being objective, you can't insert it in the reason why. It doesn't work. It is not a fact that is in play.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, I don't have. I don't know.
Well, here, I'll comment to that, Diligent. Everybody's sticking to the length of the weapon. If you read the entire law, like I would expect an attorney to do, you would come across section 46.03 subsection A, where it lists firearms, what you guys are talking about, location restricted knives, clubs, or prohibited weapons listed in section 46.05 subsection A. And when you go read that section, folding knives are in there, smaller knives are in there, location specific knives are in there. So you guys want to specifically target one.
Wait,
it doesn't matter if we know the length of the knife.
Specifically,
if he had a
section say all knives?
Let him
all knives.
Because of your mic, bro, when you talk...
we are talking about...
Because of your... Well, first of all, you just don't talk over people. It's hard to understand. But because of your mic, whenever you have because of your connection issues, it's making it worse when you're talking over him. Let him finish what he was saying. Did you land your plane, Alpha?
No, I'll bring it to a landing here. So everybody wants to keep talking about a location specific or location restricted knife, which there is a section for that. And if the knife he has is longer than 5.5, they'll use that section. If it's a folding knife, they'll use this section. There's different knives in there, and depending which knife he has, they're going to utilize that different section. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter which knife he has. Any knife is going to be in violation of the overall 46.01 section, and then whatever subsection will be dependent on what kind of knife he had. So it doesn't matter what the knife is, the mere possession of the knife is still going to facilitate a felony crime.
Yeah, the statute, as I read it, was pretty expansive as far as the definition.
It's crazy that y'all are trying to tell us.
It included, and I'll let you go, Re-Ups, because you've been patient. It included a far broader definition than just location-specific knives. The only thing that was covered under location-specific knives were blades that were longer than 5.1 inches long. However, the statute didn't limit the prohibition of those blades just to location-specific. As it came to schools, it was, as he described, folding knives, pocket knives. I believe there was 2 or 3 other types of blades that were mentioned there. Go ahead, Re-Ups. Hey, anybody?
No. Mm-mm.
Well, he asked a question about if it said about the knife. If you guys go and you go to subsection, I believe it was 6 or 7. It's in the first
6,
10.
subsection 6.
And
I think you're arguing something again he hasn't been charged with.
And it talks about a knife.
He's talking about the merits of the self-defense thing. So just because If the prosecutor thinks that he has him dead to rights, maybe he's not. We don't know. Like, this is all speculative here, right? Like, we don't know why he's not being charged with it. We're just assuming. Unless we knew the size of the knife, like, we don't know the details of the blade. So, like, having this conversation is really an exercise in futility. But I would just argue, right? Just the possession of the knife at a track meet where the other people involved in the incident are unarmed, kind of, it makes the self-defense claim harder to believe. I'll just say that.
Diligent, can I just throw this out there? When I went to school, when I was in school, I carried the knife that my grandfather gave me everywhere I went. I had it in my backpack or I had it in my jeans everywhere I went. And it had our family inscription on it, which is, if I were to die today knowing I made another person's life better, I have lived a good life. That was on my family knife. I took it everywhere I went. And that was in high school. That was in middle school. I had it on me at all times. So, like, having a knife does not prove intent. All it does is prove is that the kid is stupid, at bare minimum.
But the issue with that, Blue, is it's a different time. I listen to people all the time that drove to high school with shotguns in the
No,
racks
it's
of their
not. I
truck.
think that's the culture,
There
right? I've spoken to people from that area, and they say that's just what they do.
You didn't want to talk
matter.
until Alpha started talking. Like, what happened?
Alpha,
couldn't get to the
Marine to
mic.
Marine.
My bad, I was
Marine to Marine, can we honestly admit that civilians are stupid? I have a 14-year-old son who is dumb as shit and intelligent as shit at the same time. Like, he has a conceptual understanding of the most insanely impressive things on earth, and he watches everything I do and say, and every shit. He's listening to this conversation right now. However, at the same time, I can ask him to pick something up and he will ignore the thing right next to it because I didn't ask for that thing. Teenagers are dumb. I don't know what it is biologically that makes teenagers stupid, especially teenage boys stupid, but I've watched it across generations. Teenagers are dumb as shit, and there's zero logic that can explain how dumb and the lack of common sense that exists within teenagers. And then you combine that with testosterone and ego and stupidity and the proclivity to fight over the dumbest shit imaginable, combined with our wholly degrading culture as a country right now. And it is easy to see how a simple altercation turned into something horribly wrong. But my whole point throughout this entire thing is that the racial narrative is stupid. And while we're sitting here arguing over whether or not he should have or could have, the shoulda, coulda, wouldas of the fact that he had a knife on him, the fact is, should he have had a knife on him? No, he shouldn't have. Should he have stabbed Austin Metcalf? Sure as hell not, from my perspective. Is it reasonable? No, it's not. Are we having a reasonable discussion about it? We're sure as hell not, because we're still arguing semantics over something that is not fucking changing. And you know what? I don't think we've changed anyone's minds tonight, because the reality is it really depends on which tribal narrative you walked into the space with. And I'm diligent. I've been trying to say this the whole time. The right side of the aisle is where this case got its first major spread. When the news story, when it came out, the first place it went national was on the right, and it was attacking the mainstream media for not making it a national story because it doesn't fit their narrative.
Was that before the bond was lowered?
Yes, it was. And almost immediately, as soon as it hit the right in general, the woke right and the racist, the absolute furthest right crazy people started calling it a conspiracy against white people and in saying that it was a national attack on white people and that it was a racial-based stabbing and that he was attacked because he was white. And they started.
I'll have to try to figure. I'm going to try to look that up. Because Twitter's a good pulse.
They started attacking the woke left.
Twitter's a good pulse for that, and it's searchable. So like I'll look into it.
I mean, I told you that earlier.
But I also seen. I've also seen in the early days Tariq Nasheed amongst others. Right.
Well, that's where Tariq Nasheed
and let me
came
just
in.
let me just. I want to
started-
assess the situation. I got to go to my magic 8-ball here and ask MAGA.
Just give me 30
I will.
seconds.
Sorry, I just got to interject. I got to break it apart a little bit. I got to ask MAGA voice first of all. Because you said you don't think you've changed anybody's mind here. MAGA voice, has your mind been changed as a result of this space? What do you think? Yes or no? What you got? No. Okay. And then another thing is, MAGA voice, do you agree with the blue collar that it was the right who made this a race issue? Ooh.
The far
the right is the right, sir. I just said the right.
I know, but I'm not saying the right in general. I mean, like the people.
All right, thank you, MAGA voice. I appreciate the opinion. Go ahead, blue collar, you land your plane, and we'll go to these women.
Well, the only thing I wanted to say, respond to Julian, and I agree with everything you said, Julian. With the only thing where I disagree
Stock
with you,
mom, you have a mute button. You gotta
when
you gotta just mute these misogynists, right? If you want to be heard in the space at nighttime, especially, you gotta exercise yourself. You have the ability to mute. You gotta just put these guys in their place. Go ahead.
I was on a double mute, but
No, sir. No, my co-host.
All right, so I want to speak for a second. I was in your space the other night, and I've just been doing a lot of listening. But I want to bring it back to the basics here, short and sweet. I know that so much time is being spent on the semantics, which, listen, I know it's necessary, but can we just stop for a minute and look at the basic facts? Can we leave race aside? All the mainstream media propaganda. Forget the GoFundMe. Forget the rain. That Carmelo had the right to be there. Forget the color of both of their skin. I don't care that Metcalf was bigger than him. Let's forget the nonsense about it's the school's fault because it was raining and they should have canceled the track meet. Forget the size of the knife. Let's just forget all of that. The bottom line is Carmelo brought a knife to a track meet on school grounds. He pulled a knife out of his backpack and he killed someone. He took another life. He committed murder, which is a felony. Okay, it wasn't self-defense. He had to contemplate in that moment that he contemplated reaching into his backpack and actually taking a knife out. He didn't use his fist. Common sense. A knife can kill someone. I mean, we're not even thinking about the basics here. As a mother and a parent, if that was my child, I would be beside myself. And how this is being handled is absolutely outrageous. I mean, has anyone stopped? What if this was your child? I mean, I get he's young and people are calling for leniencies, but I'm sorry. If that kid killed my child, I would want him remanded without bail, and I would want him to spend the rest of his life in prison. Accountability. I'll leave it at that.
I agree with
Diligent.
you. And this is about
Alpha was
children
asking me
and killing
something.
children. This is about children killing children.
We're going to let the women run with it for a minute, brother.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mary. Go ahead, Mary. You were speaking. Go ahead.
I've been listening to everyone. There are some good points from everyone. But when you look at everything, this is a child killing a child, regardless of the law, regardless of anything. If the attorney, what he states, that this person is going to walk